Welcome back to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take a break from the gaming and decide to cover the rest of all the Linuxy goodness, but we still got a few gaming stories in here this week. I'm Ben Stone, joined every week by
Pedro Mateos, hello.
And
Mathieu Commandant, hi.
Hi, look at him. That is the most excited I've seen you in like the 4 years I've known you. That was just pure, unbridled energy. I know, man. Hey, big show this week. And like normal, let's just get right into it.
New
Fedora.
Fedoras.
No, the series. No, the clock's not counting down. Instead, we're talking about the big Fedora 24. From Tech Republic, all this nightmare fuel will be in our show notes, but we're going to start this off with the 4 biggest improvements from the latest workstation release, because that's what I tried. Gave it a spin yesterday. Played with it just a little bit. Visual improvements, technically that's there. Support for Open H.264 courtesy of Cisco. Graphical upgrades, questionable. Various things under the hood. New glibc, some people are already having issues with that. But, main reason I installed it, because I think like for the past, 9 installations, I was like, Wayland support, and no.
I have a bit of advice for distro developers. They should really stop planning to ship with Wayland until Wayland is ready to use before the development of the distro begins. And this includes driver supports for NVIDIA AMD. So, which means like no distribution should even think about shipping with Wayland right now. It's not ready yet.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It installed, no issues, loaded fine, got the NVIDIAs on there. Then it started this thing called GNOME. This horrible piece of kit, really. It kind of looks like Unity on a budget. Takes 4 clicks to get to a terminal. That was the first thing I learned, and I was like, why did we need a terminal? Because step 1 on a brand new Fedora installation is installing XFCE 4. Pedro?
Yeah, now you know the reason as to why most of everyone hates GNOME 3 and Unity. If you're used to the old desktop paradigm, as it were, it's not going to sit well with you. But one of the things that caught my eye was the OpenH.264 codec, which was granted by Cisco, like you mentioned. It needs, according to the article, it needs to be downloaded from Cisco servers, and it can only play videos that were encoded with the baseline profile in H.264. So let's say if you record it on high, can't play it. Nope.
That's interesting. Well, this release is one step further into their projects, which is Fedora Next. It's an effort to bring a cohesive platform to the Fedora distribution. So they have like a cloud image, they have a server image, they have the workstation image. And yeah, they're trying to build something, a real project, as opposed to just bits and pieces put together. So that's really nice. One of the things I noticed in the announcements was some improvements regarding the font rendering, which is always nice because very few distro get this right. So I liked this.
Yeah, the Fedora has been using FreeType for a long time now. But speaking of the Fedora 24s, the fine folks at ZDNet decided to compare the different desktop environments, because why not? Apparently someone was really bored at work. And this is not by any stretch of the imagination a fair comparison, because they tried the different flavors in different hardware. So some specific laptops that you can see at the top of the page there had issues with like Broadcom wireless drivers, namely the one they tested with Cinnamon. That was one of the biggest ones. The KDE version, apparently they ran into a bug with KDE itself where the bottom panel did not auto hide, and whenever, say, a window needed your attention, instead of started blinking, it would just create an opaque, just like a bar that signified that the, like you usually get when your panel minimizes, you get that opaque bar at the bottom of the screen. They were getting that, but they couldn't click on anything. So that wasn't good. The XFC and the LXDs, they were mostly all right. They were big fans of the mate implementation. Apparently, that was good. They liked the functionality over performance, so that's good, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a shock hitting that GNOME, but I mean, just reading through this article, it's kind of like mate looks like what GNOME should look like.
Yeah, because it's just GNOME 2, basically.
And XFCE, you know, it's just its own piece of kit. You know, don't tingle with the type of people who run XFCE. We know what we're doing. And LXD, it's what I would run on an older laptop. Strider?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much of a difference. Well, there are some new desktop environments like Mate and Cinnamon, but yeah, other than that, it's just a regular desktops we've seen for years, and getting updates, which is always nice. But yeah, Fedora is really focused on GNOME. That's when you have that many Red Hat developers working on GNOME, that's understandable. So you're going to get the most polished experience with GNOME.
When it comes to GNOME 3 implementation, Fedora is possibly the best across all the mainstream distros. If you like GNOME 3, if that's your bag, that's probably the distro you should go, since they've been using GNOME 3 as default since Fedora 15. Yeah. And just everything else always feels like a bit of an afterthought, but it's there in case you want it.
It is. And one thing we should mention is they do have the Fedora spins for whatever moon reason.
Just download the ISOs.
Yeah, and installing it via the package management system is too difficult for you. But
we're talking about Solus. You may remember Solus. We talked about it a while back when Aiki Doherty posted those controversial benchmarks, controversial to the point where he had to disable comments on that post. But they have finally released the 1.2 version. They called it Cheryl. Yeah. So yeah, it's running the budget desktop environment, which is, I don't want to say it's based off of GNOME 3. It's definitely derived from GNOME 3, but it's was built from the ground up to be a 64-bit distribution, and so packages like Steam or Skype didn't exactly run at first, but they realized that people might want to use that, so they made their own. As far, because we also do Linux Gamecast Weekly, we care about the gamings, and even though they shared some benchmarks with 3 different JPEG lib decodes because reasons, none of the benchmarks were with games. I could, educated guess as the budget compositor probably doesn't do gaming all that well, but Strider will disagree with me.
Yeah, compositor hasn't made a difference more than 1 or 2% in performance since like 2008.
Unless it's a software compositor.
Unless you have a really crappy GPU.
Or it's a software compositor. Which is not the case in this particular instance, but software compositor,
I don't know. I mean,
not so good.
Like we said, I mean, it's an actual project, so we're in favor of that, right? The only thing I will say this, but I don't know anything about benchmarks. I've only been doing gaming benchmarks and Linux benchmarks since the 90s. Outside of that, okay, if you're focused on providing, and I do quote, a performant gaming experience, maybe you should include some performant gaming benchmarks. Just my tree fitting. Strider, do you got anything else?
This is, for once, we're covering a distro, and I'm actually interested in this because it's not a useless effort where they could just provide us scripts. Mm-hmm. This is a totally brand new distro, and they're shipping with their own desktop budgie, which looks really good. So yeah, I mean, it takes a lot for me to get interested in new distros because I've used Linux for like maybe 20 years. Mm-hmm. So this one really catches my interest, and yeah, I look forward to trying it.
Okay, well, let's move on to a holy war, shall we?
Snap! Shots fired.
So what do we have in the Linux drama this week? Yeah, we talked about snaps, the Ubuntu distribution package format on the earlier shows, and we also talked about Flatpaks. And the thing is, there were a lot more coverage in the press regarding snaps than there were regarding
because Canonical.
Canonical has pushed like press releases explaining what Snap could do and everything. Maybe that was a bit early regarding the state of Snaps, but regardless, it got really good coverage. There were like articles and Ars Technica and like a bunch of other websites.
Yes, but this article comes from
Fedora developer, and he's quite angry at this whole coverage and the lack.
Angry is a
coverage.
strong word. Mildly irritated, I mean.
Yeah, could say that. And yeah, he explains that all the wrong stuff that has been said regarding snaps, like, no, they're not going to replace debs and RPMs. Which
that's the end game.
No, the original announcement from Canonical never said that. They never said it's going
because you're going to tip your hand while you're playing poker. You're going to tip your hand so everyone can see exactly what you have. That's a good idea.
No, I mean, it doesn't say that was a total invention from Ars Technica and other websites, because I've seen it in some other places for, I don't know, for clickbait purposes, stuff like this.
So answer me this, Strider. Snap and the other two competing ones, isn't the end goal to get rid of debs and RPMs?
No, that's to support other packages that are not...
Oh, so instead of just running one package manager on your distro, all of a sudden you have to run 2 or 3 or 4, assuming all 3 of them become mainline.
I mean, we already do that. If you're a Python developer, you may use pip, or if you're Node.js developer, you may not use Node.js. So yeah, we already use all kinds of different packet manager. But the point here is to be able to provide support for older or newer apps that are not provided by the package manager.
That's quite a broad range, older or newer. All of them, you mean, correct?
Yeah, I mean, anything other than current gen, something that hasn't been compiled for the platform you're running.
Now, I will say this,
no
too. I mean, to quote, I mean, he does say Snaps, the server end, basically the App Store bit, is, you can't argue, this closed source and Canonical. They've been refusing to tell anyone how to run their own, but you're like, I can reverse engineer it with my VB script that tracks IP addresses.
No, really, that may be the simplest bits of the whole Snap project. And the real problem is not that it's closed source. The problem is that the URLs for the Snap Store are hard-coded into the project. So, okay, this is a very young project right now. It needs a lot more work, and I'm sure this will get fixed because it says so in the snapcraft.io website. They tell, okay, we will provide support for third-party stores. They say it like it's written.
Yeah, if you build it yourself,
and even
obviously.
if they didn't, I've already figured out how you could provide snaps without the usual Snap Store. I mean, it's just a matter of providing a tar.gz and running a few scripts.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's absolutely early, and outside of just providing some good banter for all of us, I mean,
yeah,
because ultimately, you're not going to be running this on anything other than Wayland or Mir, because
you could.
You could if you're stupid on purpose.
Yeah, at this point,
you just don't benefit from the sandboxing thing. But then again, we don't have any sandboxing in our current apps. So we've been
unless you're running Chrome. Let's see.
Sure.
I'll agree with Strider's rant on 2 points. Fedora devs and their egos are very easily bruised. They are. That's just fact. Having snaps come to the mainstream media before Flatpaks did, it left them a bit riled up. There'll be another link in the show notes you can look at, which consists of the Fedora mailing list discussing this very same issue, and you should read it. There's lots and lots of butthurt in that one. But the fact of the matter is, neither snaps nor flaps are ready for production. In fact, the egos of Fedora devs are the reason that they prefer to ship a broken Plasma 5 instead of allowing people to stay with KDE 4. But more on that after the break. Because right now we have
nothing to do with Fedora being a cutting edge distribution or anything like that, right? Sounds like you're the one
there's
who's
cutting edge and then there's broken.
Yeah.
It's Fedora, not
Sounds
Arch.
like Pedro's the one who's a little bit hurt. But let's talk about our Patreons, the people who make this show possible. Without you, this show would not be possible. Supporting us, we got 84 Patreons, kicking in a total 152 per Saturday Night Train Wreck. Then, what's Saturday Night Train Wreck? Well, it's this other thing we do. It's the big show. It's called Linux Gamecast Weekly. We just did our 200th episode. Staying constant with that, we got a new one coming up. If you can kick in $1 a show, that'd be great. If you've ever been thinking about doing it, we're going to give you something back. You're going to get some extra things like our Trying Again series, our Portal series, a bunch of gaming stuff, and some extra bits and rewards. Just head over to patreon.com/Linux Gamecast and check that out. See if it's something you would be interested in. If not, just go to Patreon and look around for some other projects. You're definitely going to find something there that you might want to support if you enjoy watching it. One thing I do want to mention, though, since we have everyone's ear organs, is we are still looking for some fill-in host this Saturday. So if anyone wants to get back to me, then at linuxgamecast.com. We are looking to play Dead Island Definitive Edition. So if you got a copy of that laying around, and if you've been on the show before or on the after show, definitely call me, and we'll see if we can work something out. But
yes,
speaking of crashing with the KDEs.
Yes. KDE 5.7 beta. It's currently available if you're feeling brave and you want to test out the new sauce. They have a more refined breeze experience, which that just sounds like a euphemism for flatulence, improved workflows, and a couple of other things. One thing I did like was the audio device integration to the system tray. Because you can actually drag a currently running application on top of the audio source that you want to be playing it on, and it will automatically play there. And you can also control per application volume directly from the tray. You don't need to open a separate thing like your Pavu controls or whatever it was that KDE used. You can do it right there from the tray, and that's kind of awesome. They have better kiosk support. The tray itself was also improved. And there's the virtual keyboard bit that Ben was showing you earlier, which if you don't have a keyboard plugged in, the system will know. And the moment you hit a text field, it'll pop up the on-screen keyboard. So,
yeah, I mean, the keyboard looks like the most interesting piece of kit to come out of this so far. But, geez, it does look quite slow, Strider.
Yeah, I've looked at this video and there was a bit of delay between like switching languages and everything. But I like Plasma 5 more and more. I've been using Plasma 5.6 on OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, and it's very good. I mean, I've had no issues with it. I think that's for people who swear by KDE 4 and have like this Plasma 5 from until now. I mean, this could be a good time to give it another shot because it's very.
It could
really
be,
stable.
but I had some qualms last time I tried Plasma 5. Namely, it was crashing all the time.
I thought it was just that
what
you had a
version was it?
deep-seated hatred towards it. That was your only problem.
No, that wasn't just it. KWin also randomly enabled and disabled compositing if you had the NVIDIA proprietary drivers installed. And whenever you played a video on YouTube, VLC, what have yous, there was always tearing. Whenever you started a game, there was always tearing. It was really, really bad. Has that been fixed? Have those 3 issues been fixed?
Well, I'm not using it as my main desktop environment, but so far I haven't had any issues, no crashes or anything. And it's really, if you haven't tried 5.6, or maybe you want to wait for 5.7, you should try this if you haven't already.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'll just say this. Anything past KDE 1.3 is rubbish. Don't bother with it. But let's talk about numbers, because there's 5 million of them.
Yeah, 5 million of issued Let's Encrypt certificates. And yeah, I mean, it goes on and on. It keeps growing, and more people
The really
are
impressive
adopting.
thing about this is what I first noticed here is this blue line. It's incredibly smurfalicious. Look at the revoked certificates. I mean, it's almost flat as Pedro's libido.
Right. I'm the one you want to make that comparison with.
Go ahead, Strut.
So the adoption keeps growing, and yeah, that's a very good sign. I mean, now I'm just waiting for the project to become big enough so that the big the big certificate authorities begin throwing a tantrum and like whining everything. Oh, they're taking our monies. I mean, this will be very fun to watch.
Well, you got to think at this point, they're kind of like, wait a minute, people are using this. What does it cost them? Nothing. How dare they?
Yeah, that or the NSA and the FBI already have a backdoor in there, and they're keeping everyone else quiet. Just shh, don't call too much attention to it.
Well, being a project backed by Mozilla and the AFF, I sure hope it's not the case.
Yeah, but it is an enticing target, definitely.
It is, but still.
Okay. Well,
speaking of Mozilla.
Oh, boy. And, by the way, they're also having a contest to redesign their logo, and they've already said, no, it cannot be called Firefox, McFirefox face. But that's not this story. This story is about the experimental Firefox feature that lets you use multiple identities while surfing the web. Wow, this little screen right here, this one, your hamburger menu that has all this wank on it, this is one of the reasons I quit using Foxfire. I'm just like, no. Get this thing away from me. It's too much. It's too cluttered. But this will give you up to 4 identities, and it is currently available in the nightly Firefox release channel. You'll get your own cookies, index database, data store, and local storage caches for each of those identities. So, I mean, you can have one for work. So all of your Amazon ads will be for stuff that you'd bought at work already, and one at home, so all of the Amazon and Google ads will be for stuff that you just bought at home. I mean, it's going to be a brilliant thing.
Food?
Yeah.
Food, yeah. But I personally, I'm not the target audience for this, because I have 2 profiles that I use. It's the default one and the incognito mode one.
So yeah, this is basically a per tab profile manager, because there has been a profile manager since forever, like even before Firefox was a thing in the Mozilla browser. So yeah, this is per tab. You can have like a tab with one identity and a tab with another, which is neat. I think that this is a good idea, but what would be even better if they added a password protected profile, which you could like an encrypted profile. That would be even neater. So you'd have like this bit of secure data, and without being an incognito profile. That would be cool. Also, Chrome has had a similar feature for quite a while now. You know, when you have your name on the top right corner, this is almost the same thing, except it's a per window profile.
Right. With Chrome, you have to log in and out of your accounts with that feature. But the great thing with Chrome, I'm guessing Foxfire does the same thing now too. But I mean, it's brilliant because you can log in on any version of Chrome anywhere, and I mean, it's going to pull your bookmarks and everything like that. I'm guessing.
Firefox does that as well.
It finally got around to it. All right, nice.
Firefox Sync, they finally fixed it.
Well, they finally made it usable because they had that for a long time, but it was really hard to set up.
They finally fixed it.
And yeah, they made it really easy to use now. So that's cool.
Okay.
All right, Strider, tell us about virtual things.
Yeah, tell us about the story that I
Virtual
looked at and
manager,
said, "No, Strider, you take it."
Yeah. So this is Virtual Manager. So this is like kind of our hypervisor for QEMU, if I'm not wrong. I mean, I'm not really sure how it's plugs into QEMU. Well, anyway, it's a virtualization tool. It will let you run virtual machines using KVM. That's the whole point. The best thing about this new release, especially, is the usage of Spice via something called Virgil, which is basically
virtual GPUs.
Virtual
3D
GPUs.
accelerator.
It
Right?
virtualize a GPU, and it gives you 3D acceleration.
Oh, so instead of like PCI Pass, so I'll be able to play all of my Windows games natively at full speed, right? Right?
Full speed, maybe not, but at some speed, at least you'll be able to run them.
Well, how about this? Could I at least do it with something other than AMD card using open source drivers?
Well, you could always do that little hack that lets you use the NVIDIA card.
That I have no idea how it behaves with like NVIDIA drivers or anything. One thing I'd like to see are benchmarks, how it performs. Like, is it almost native, or is it like 10% of the performance you would get? Also, I wonder how's the performance on Windows guest systems, because that's one of the reason why people would want to use that.
And that's the reason people use KVMs nowadays on Linux. It's, I want to run my Windows games, but I don't want to dual boot. So you're just going to install it in a virtual machine.
They use PCI pass-through. But anyway, if you got Fedora 24, if you install it or upgrade it to 24, you can install it and use it right away. So give it a shot. If you could run some benchmark, publish them, and send them to us, we'll be pleased to talk about them.
Well, Pedro, I got some good news for people that purchased a Sony PlayStation. Turns out they're going to be rich, right?
A whole $55.
Oh, I meant the lawyers are going to be rich. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, the lawyers are good. Those guys are in for millions. But yeah, according to Ars Technica, Sony agrees to pay millions to gamers who settle PS3 Linux debacle.
OtherOS.
So you may remember, the original PS3s that were released would let you run OtherOS, which was Yellow Dog, if I'm not mistaken. And after update number 2 point something or 3 point something that they released, 321 in 2010, the OtherOS functionality was killed. And there were a lot of people who had bought PS3 specifically for that, including the American Air Force, which had a cluster of like 500 PS3s all running OtherOS. And yeah, Sony kind of shafted everyone on that respect. But if you are a US resident and you bought a PS3 before or during 2010, you are eligible for $55. Yes, $55. If you can provide a proof of ownership that you bought a PS3 on that specific date.
I love this. Must attest under oath to their purchase of the product and installation of Linux.
And the other thing is, you have to provide some manner of proof that you were also using OtherOS at any point before the functionality was
Piece
removed.
of cake. Just go find a blank CDRW, write Yellow Dog on it.
Yellow Dog. Man, if you can prove that, you can still get $9 if you attest that you lost value and or desired functionality or were otherwise injured as a consequence of firmware update 321 issued on April 1st, 2010. That's pretty vague.
So, Yeah, so Sony removed OtherOS or Yellow Dog to prevent piracy, basically. And
that immediately
still...
set off the pirates in the PS3.
Yeah.
And they still managed to lose millions in court. So, ha ha.
I told you he was in a good mood, ladies and gentlemen. 10 million cores?
All right.
What?
Since we're on the Ars Technica train, let's talk about the new single most powerful supercomputer in the world. It comes from China.
It's got to be running Arch, bro.
It has a crap ton of
this is the new official number for 10,649,600 crap ton. Yes.
Over 10 million cores, and it can actually hit 93 petaflops per second, which is kind of insane. That's like during actual workload, they were benching it against the previous most powerful PC, and it was like 2 or 3 times faster than that other one. And it has a lower power draw, like a whole 1,000 kilowatts lower.
So this thing can run like
pretty good.
2 crises. One of the things I was
different
looking
architecture.
Like originally in this article, they did point it out because everyone thought they were going with an Intel solution initially for this build, which would have been great for America's economy, but due to, and I quote, a U.S. embargo that is in place because of concern about nuclear research, they decided not to do that. Then I went, wait a moment. Went over to the wikis, which is, of course, edited by Manatee, so don't trust it completely. But, China's already got like 260 odd nuclear warheads active in inventory, so what? Strider?
Yeah, China hasn't nuked the US yet because their computers are too slow, or were too slow until now. Anyway, this is based... The CPUs they're using is the Shenwei architecture. It's a 64-bit RISC processor, which is very similar to the Cell CPU. So basically an improved PowerPC. And each CPU has 260 cores. That's really impressive.
It doesn't have a lot of memory. I know what you're saying. Then 1.3 petabytes. And I was like, well, that is only 32 gigs for each node, though. So that's actually kind of low.
Only
260 cores?
Huh? I'm just saying, when we're talking about super duper computers, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do have some VLC. More news?
Yeah. New VLC release this time for Android. VLC for Android 2.0 gets released, new major version.
All right. I just need you to pause. Can we do something other than this bunny thing? I'm sick of seeing big bunny.
Every single...
Look, it was made in Blender. It's a good open source movie.
Hey man, they also made that other game in Blender, and they were going to make a game from it using the Blender game engine, and it just physically died, and it looked better. I'm just sick of looking at that effing bunny. Okay, I'm sorry, Strider, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's getting old. So yeah, this is a major release and update, which has like a bunch of improvements regarding the UI. Has a bunch of new features. Most useful feature, I'd say, is the networking, network browsing. So you can play videos from Samba shares, DL, NA, FTP, NFS, and all this stuff. And I've tried it. It works really good. I mean, no delay whatsoever. I was really impressed with the performance. You can also get subtitles from opensubtitles.org directly, which is cool. I always like this. You have also video playlists, and you can pop up the videos in your Android device desktop.
Well, that's one thing about Open Subtitles. I mean, it's direct. I mean, it's integrated now, so you can just click, hit a button.
Yeah,
from
like
VLC,
you could on the desktop version. What else? You have Android TV, which got improved.
My favorite thing, my favorite response to this, all this awesome stuff coming to the Android client, you know, the network streaming, the subtitles, the Android TV support. Everyone's response is like, well, it doesn't have Chromecast. Pfft, it's useless. Get rid of it. Burn it.
Yeah, but now that you can have Chromecast from the desktop.
Yeah, you can do it from the desktop now. So
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I freely admit I installed it using F-Droid, which is the open source alternative to the Play Store. Check it out if you ever want to. Put that in there, did that, pulled up a Samba share from Frank and Nass downstairs, and I was like, oh, look, it plays, and I immediately went back to Plex because I'm a horrible person, Pedro.
Yeah, no, if you want streaming media on your Android devices, use Plex. Hey, VLC is great as a desktop media player. It will play literally anything you throw at it, but on Android, just use Plex.
Pedro hates open source.
This is the main complaint I have about this, and this was my original complaint when 1.0 was released, so a couple of years back. So it doesn't have the features that make VLC what is really VLC. So there is no way to stream from the device, whether it's a video file or the Android desktop or the camera. So that these things are features that have been common on the desktop version of VLC.
Well, one thing, I didn't get to test it, but can you download from your Samba share locally? Does it support that?
I've not seen this.
So. That would be a good feature to throw in, because then you could do that, then just open the file up with Chrome and then Chromecast it and be kind of done with it.
That sounds like a roundabout way to go going at it.
Or you could just install Plex.
Solve the issue of streaming the webcam.
Well, let's talk about something that's filled me with joy all week. Google has come out with actual support deadlines for the Nexi devices. We're talking about the 5X, 6P, 6.5, 4, 9, 7, 10, because that's how I count, baby. We have actual dates. So your 6P and 5X, you're not going to get a guaranteed Android version update after 2017. Nexus 9, 6, 2016, Nexus 5, and Nexus 7 to 2013, Rev 15. And for that one idiot in Athens that bought the Nexus 10 for $500,000, it ended in 2014. You know what, Googs? Die in a fire, and never again. I was going to buy the new Nexus 10. I was, because I was like, I really like my Nexus 10. I would like this new one. And they said, oh, yeah, by the way, your new one's not going to get Marshmallow. And I'm like, why? Like, because of reasons, bro. So then I installed Marshmallow, via Nexus mod, and it had the benefit of making it run faster. And I was like, you know what? Now I'm not going to buy your new Nexus 10. And
that's the thing. It's not a whole lot different from how it's done around here in Europe, because the way that most phone manufacturers or resellers or even carriers, because carriers actually push if they got one of those cheap Android phones from China or India or what have yous. Yeah.
You need a W for that, and it would totally say meow.
If they get one of those, they are actually the ones in charge of the software and firmware updates. But once your warranty is over, which legally mandated it's 2 years here in Europe, once that's passed, you're not going to get any updates whatsoever. Just forget about it.
So what I noticed is that in a few months, Google won't be supporting any tablet. So you say they're releasing a new Nexus 10? Is that confirmed?
Weren't they supposedly killing off the Nexus line? No?
It seems so, because all their devices are not receiving any support for that long. I mean, even the current gen line of product is losing its support next year. So do they have like replacements down the line, or are they just done with the Nexus line of products? This is what I'm wondering. And I mean, if you look at the fine folks at OmniROM or the crust punks at XDA, they do manage to give updates for Marshmallow or like the current Android version on older device. So it's not a technical issue. This is just planned obsolescence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I bought my Nexus 4 last summer, and it runs really well. I mean, I still run Android 5 on it, but I could upgrade it to Marshmallow if I wanted to with OmniROM. But yeah, I mean, I don't even notice a big difference between this and a Galaxy S7, so I have no reason to upgrade. So yeah,
there's a bunch of Samsung fanboys just typing furiously in the comments right now. All right, so that about wraps us up. Let's get into some feedback before we forget, as usual. So the first one comes from Martin Wimpress, because after last week, we're talking about snaps as we're off to do, and he said that no, snaps are not statically compiled, because I was saying that there's going to be a bunch of static libraries just sitting there, and that's not a good thing because that's how Linux used to work. And he said that snaps are not statically compiled. By default, the binaries in a snap package are dynamically linked. They are contained within an isolated file system that contains all the libraries it requires. So not the statically linked libraries of old. That's good. That's good. But what you're doing at that point is basically creating the Steam runtime for your entire software suite on your operating system, which the only advantage it really has over the regular Steam runtime is that the snap packages, which contain all the libs, because that's one of the things I actually want to do, is have separate snap packages with the libraries. That way all other snap packages can just link to that other snap package and depend on it, so the libraries can be, you don't have duplicate libraries in your system as much, and they can be updated with as much regularity as the snap maintainer cares for. Now, that's only slightly better than a Steam runtime because it's not attached to Valve time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the main problem with what's the true Unix veteran sysadmin have to complain about snap packages, and also Flatpaks, because it works the same way. But yeah, the video games on Linux, I've used this method for like many years now. If you go and read the guide that Ethan Lee, Flippity Baby Joe has published like a few days ago, it's a very good guide telling you how to package and ship your games on Linux, and it tells you how to detect what libraries you need and what you should ship with your game. So it's basically the same thing.
All right. So up next, we have this one is for Ven. Yeah. What kind of Xbox controller clone do you use, Ven? From Spudley.
Well, the best we can really tell is that it is genuinely an Xbox that kind of fell off the assembly line somewhere in China.
Didn't get branded.
Yeah, never got its stickers. I bought it on the Amazons, and I didn't really get a deal on it. I still think it was like 50 quid. But if you want to get in touch with us, how can they do it, P-Man?
Well, it's the usual way. Chances are, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can just leave us a comment right down there, and we'll get right back to you, which was what Spudley did. If you say follow us on Google+, Twitter, or even Facebook, you can also leave a comment there. That's usually the way we get most of our feedback. And if you want to send some feedback for Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, and let's say you want to send some hate mail for Linux Gamecast Weekly, you just go on over to linuxgamecast.com, hit the contact button on the nav bar. It's easy enough. You just fill out the form, pick which show you'd like to scream in our direction for, and we'll scream right back at yours.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition. I'll be back Saturday with a rotating cast of strangeness for the next Gamecast Weekly, but we will all return next Wednesday for your viewing enjoyment. I've been Vin Stone.
I am Pedro Mateos, and you can also scream at us on Patreon. Thanks, Jordan.
And I'm Matthew Komodo, and you can always scream at me on lotris.net.
He loves it when you do that. See you.
Hey, man, plug your stuff.